If you understand the chakras, you have the key to everything else that you're looking for. It's really as simple as that. The chakras seem like they're esoteric, but they are absolutely fundamental to every single thing that you do, to the achievement of every goal that you want, to the explanation for whatever suffering you're going through. The chakras really will tell you everything. I've given many series on the chakras. If you look in the description, you'll see some of the most popular playlists. So let me tell you a little bit about why you want to look at some of those long form teachings, okay? The chakras are like the blueprint. The chakras are the blueprint of your life, but a pattern, a paper blueprint, you just lay it out, the building is built, and then after that, you don't look at it again. The chakras are an energy pattern, and an energy pattern is constantly being adjusted. The chakras are the place where your karma is stored. Like we can talk about karma because we talk about karma all the time, and I get endless questions about karma, and karma is also a companion to the chakras. How is karma carried on? Especially how is karma carried from lifetime to lifetime? The chakras are the answer to that question. They're a trio that we have to understand: karma, reincarnation, and the chakras. Starting with the chakras, it leads you to an understanding of all the others. Because this is an energy pattern, every time that you have a thought, you have a feeling, you take an action, you have any kind of experience, it vibrates at a certain level of understanding, somewhere between total delusion, not having a clue, and absolute God realized enlightenment. And everything that we do falls on somewhere on that spectrum. We're always affirming what we believe to be reality. We don't stop and think about it, we just do it, whatever it might be, and it always reflects something on this spectrum. The chakras are the blueprint in which what we think of as true is recorded infallibly, impersonally, without ever there being an error. We're constantly adjusting that blueprint to reflect who I am right now. And it's an energy field, and energy is active. It's not passive, it's not inert like the material world is inert. Energy creates magnetism, and that magnetism either repels or attracts. And that's what karma is. Karma is either, we either push it away or it comes to us depending on how the magnetism works. The magnetic pattern is the chakras. From the base of the spine to the crown of the head, we have these 7 centers that run through the center of the body. We call it the spine, but it's really like down the center of who we are. And it's that vibratory force that actually holds the body together. When conception occurs and then the body is formed in the womb, the first thing that's formed in these little tiny microscopic pictures that you see looks like a matchstick because it's the spine. The sperm and the ovum unite at the medulla, and the first thing that happens is the spine is formed. And then each of these magnetic centers begins to draw the material force to it to form the body that is reflective of what the soul, the individual jiva, the spark of divinity, needs for that incarnation. Whether it's going to be male or female, whether it's going to make a perfect, beautiful body or a body that has some aberrations to it, whether it's attractive or homely, what color its hair and eyes are, all these things. Yes, of course, the parent, the genetic structure influences that, but the chakras come first. You're drawn into that situation because it's your karma, because the energy body is what you are when you're in the astral world, and when it's time for you to take another body, your chakras find the place where it vibes, and that's where you go. So now think about this. If you can consciously understand what that energy pattern is, first of all, that makes you less of a mystery to yourself. Then if you want to change that energy pattern and draw to you things that you feel will be beneficial, or make a protective wall against those things that you think are not helpful, if you work at it first from the energy level, then you have a power that you don't have when you're just sort of batting at it from the outside. If you're holding the hose, if you're trying to direct the water and you're just batting at the water, it doesn't go. It's very hard to direct it. If you get the hose in your hand, you can direct it however you want, and if you can put your hand on the nozzle, you'll be even doing better. And that's our life force. And the way it flows is because of the pattern that we create. So we need to understand, what each of these chakras represents. And there's many, many different systems to describe this. And many people say many different things about the chakras. What I'm trying to bring to you now is what I think is the most practical, usable, accessible way of understanding. Each of the chakras represents an essential quality required for a successful, happy human life. And each chakra has two ways of expressing. One is essentially, you would say, in a horizontal direction, directly out into the world without necessarily elevating it to what is really in your best interest. And the other way is that you take that same quality, but you use it guided by wisdom, not just guided by impulse and habit. So one of the fundamental ways of talking about the chakras is starting with the base chakra. That represents earth. And we have to incarnate all the way into the material world. The earth element represents our need for security. Security is a fundamental human need. So then the question is, where do I draw my security from? From making the external world match what I want, or by drawing my security from my relationship to a higher reality. The second chakra represents water. These gradually become, earth is absolutely fixed, water is more mutable, but water is always water. It doesn't change its form, but water adapts. So the second chakra is creativity, and people also talk about it as sexuality, but going a step back even from sexuality at the second chakra, we're talking about creativity, the need, intuition, the need for relationship, all of the things that are represented there. So the second chakra either draws its inspiration from intuitive relationship to a higher reality, or it seeks constant change. And so its creativity is just always moving around. And so the energy in the second chakra is either dissipated in restless need for constant stimulation, or else the second chakra is elevated and becomes an instrument of our higher intuitive self. The third chakra is willpower, personal power. And the third chakra, the direction of the third chakra directs also the first and second chakra. And so the first chakra is, the third chakra is fire. And it's fiery self-control, which is to say, I will not be simply the victim of my past habits. I will take mastery over my own life. And then I will draw my security from my self-mastery. I will draw my creativity from my self-mastery. And then we, again, continue up the chain. And the fourth chakra here is the heart chakra. And the heart chakra, of course, is our desire for love. The heart chakra is air. See, fire burns the earth. It turns into molten. We call it water, but it's molten. Then the power of the fire begins to transform, and then the energy is liberated, and it becomes the power of air. Now, the air chakra, again, when people just dissipate the energy outwardly like that, we used to have a phrase called someone is very airy-fairy, meaning that they're not at all grounded. They're not connected to the earth chakra. They're not using their creativity. They don't have self-mastery. They may feel expansive, but that expansiveness is not an integrated expansiveness. So, and the air chakra also gives us the impression of connection, but if it's not grounded with the lower three chakras, with their cooperation, then it's always in a state of unsatisfaction is the only word for it. Then we take the heart chakra, it comes up to the throat chakra, which is, ether, I think is what he calls it, which is even more subtle, ether is a term of art. It doesn't mean the gas that the dentist gives you to put you to sleep. Ether is a word that means the unifying substance in all the material world. So air is a distinct element, but air is part of this more subtle thing, which is ether, which is where communication comes from, where because we can communicate when we are unified. We can communicate when the heart is open. We can communicate when there's self-mastery. You see how these all work together? When we have intuition and when we feel secure in ourselves. And then we can really commune and communicate with the world. This is the throat chakra here. Then we go, Yogananda adds into his description, the sixth chakra is both the medulla and the spiritual eye. And this is our individuality. And when that individuality is egoically based, and I'm not talking about ego as an enemy, by this, ego is the infinite self identified with the limitations imposed on it by a material body. And so this is the negative pole, and this is the positive pole. This is individuality unified with the infinite. This is individuality confined by a limited self-definition. So then the energy goes up to the limited self-definition, but then it's offered to the spiritual eye. And what we're working with is we want all of our energy to be guided by the spiritual eye. Each of it expresses in its own way, but it's guided by the wisdom of the knowledge of ourself as one with the infinite. And so the way the kundalini, the way the energy circulates, the life force energy, kundalini, it's all kundalini, but people think of the kundalini as the deeper inner energy. But the life force circulates and activates all of those chakras. Do we dissipate the energy out in many different directions, or do we interiorize that by learning to concentrate and understand ourselves at the spiritual eye? And then all of those aspects of the chakras are guided by wisdom. And then eventually, this leads to the seventh chakra, but when we master the sixth chakra, the seventh chakra automatically opens. These are many of the things that I talk about in the long form classes that I have there. All of this is happening all the time anyway. So what the chakras will give us is an understanding how we work with each one of those chakras, how we think about it, how we respond to it, how it's manifesting in our lives, and then how we can use that to focus on what will really bring us what we long for, instead of just being tossed about by all these forces without having a clue as to where the energy is coming from and what to do about it. Once you really begin to understand the chakras, you can really begin to change your life on levels that you can hardly imagine until you understand it. The chakras, reincarnation, karma. I'm like a broken record. Just once you understand these, not just in some airy-fairy intellectual way, but in a practical, everyday, I can change myself by changing the fundamental energy pattern of who I am. Joy, 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 that is the result.